Say, hey, hey, G, hey, E, we represent, hey, hey, G, E, what else, what else, C, come on, come on, come on, C, just let's go, so let's dance now, it is my turn, just want you, I am ready for your action, just want you should cut off all distraction. It's all on you now, and just give me some reaction. Just wanna you. Girl, I like the way you move. Really wanna get with you. Don't just stand there teasing me. Now it's time to show and prove.
With the staggering number of people below the poverty line in Nigeria, with people rationing and contemplating which meal is the most important of the day, and settling for quantity rather than the quality of a meal. How has the coronavirus affected the livelihood of many Nigerians? How do we eradicate the hunger virus and ensure that the system has the best interest of its citizens at heart on matters relating to food security? Up next, we chat with Honorable Obong, Linus Onofiok, Aisha Salis, and Honorable Kabir, Takura on Rubbing Minds.
Hello, this is the Nigerian Symposium for Young and Emerging Leaders on Rubbing Minds. My name is Seyi Awolowo and I'll be your host. And we are going to be discussing the hunger virus. So, the hunger virus, a sad tale that's afflicting Nigerians around the world, around the country. We are having Nigerians saying they would prefer to die of hunger than to die of COVID. And sadly, it's as if this COVID pandemic just revealed a totally different thing, that Nigeria is not food secure. Whereas people say that Nigeria has a very strong food security. Madam, please, if you would, we know that you have vested interest in agriculture. Would like you to please elaborate a little bit about it and what you think should be means or ways to alleviate poverty alleviate this hunger virus in our country.
I think for me the answer is very simple. We have a vast amount of arable land in Nigeria, and we have a large number of unemployed youths. So the thing is, how do we marry both into agriculture, have these youths get jobs, and also increase the food productivity in Nigeria? For me, I think that is just the simple solution to the problem.
So this solution, does it have an adverse effect on the cost of food in the country as well? Because sometimes the prices of our locally made food almost rivals the price of foods that are imported.
Yeah, the thing is, because there is not enough food, you've just highlighted the fact that there is food insecurity in Nigeria. So it has made food become gold. When you now have food in surplus, definitely, the forces of demand and supply will take place. There'll be a fall and a crash in food in the country, but it's because of there is no balance. We still do not have enough food to go around. So, of course, there will be high increase in food. But once that is being done, we've improved the agricultural sector, there's much more food in country, prices of food will definitely come crashing. It's not rocket science.
Okay, thank you very much. Honorable Kabir, as regards these palliatives that were supposed to be distributed during the COVID pandemic, the first phase, as was stated, a number of people allege that they did not receive these palliatives, and if at all it got to their communities, it was ridiculously small. Say, for example, a full-story building, we're told to share a whole loaf of bread. I mean, even you had to think about it like, wow, what was that? Please, what are your contributions to this, please?
It's quite ridiculous, the way the distribution of the palliatives from the ministry went. Very unfortunate. In the House of Representatives, a lot of members acknowledge the fact that in their constituencies, those things, there was no impact, they didn't feel it at all. So this goes to tell you that it didn't go around as it is supposed to. The House of Representatives is one place where you can use to fill the pulse of everything and anything happening around the country. If it's supposed to be a national program, because of the spread, there's a representation from every part of this country. I'll give you an example with my constituency. I had ears to the ground and trying to make sure that we get to know or find out the extent to which the palliatives were distributed, but it's quite minimal. And that led the House to invite the minister in charge of the distribution of these palliatives and adopted a new strategy. So going forward, I believe there would be impact if at all the solutions we provided are going to be adopted.
Thank you very much for that. Honorable Luke, I'd like to ask, how do you think the government can amplify food distribution as well as rethink a strategy to ensure that people who truly are in need receive this assistance?
Instead of food distribution, we should talk about food sufficiency. And the challenge with food sufficiency in Nigeria is that, just like the challenge with every other sector in the country, is that we begin to look at Nigeria's problem, we begin to compartmentalize Nigeria's problem and begin to compartmentalize the solutions without looking at a holistic approach. Food sufficiency, we've forgotten to look at the issue of security. We have shortage in food today because of herders-farmers clash. Farmers have not been able to produce the way they ought to have produced. We have challenges today because we don't have access road for our farmers to evacuate their product from the farm to be able to take it to the market. We have challenges of food shortage today because farmers don't have the facility to have a storage facility to store whatsoever they produce. So perishable goods, after 1 or 2 days, they are gone. And the other one is that we have challenges today because some people go to the hinterland and then begin to buy this product at a giveaway price. So we should look at a holistic solution to the problem of food insecurity in Nigeria: road network, infrastructure development, security, and even input to farmers to be able to have sufficient and commercialized agriculture away from agriculture to just feed the stomach. Agriculture as a way of life, agriculture as a business. That would make food sufficient for everyone. So food sharing is for abnormal situation like pandemic.
Okay, so technically what you're saying is a lack of basic infrastructure.
Yeah.
For example, good roads, security are part of the
Power. Yeah.
Are part of the contributing factors to the lack of food distribution within the country.
Yes.
And let's bear in mind, you do know there's also the part where a certain demographic, about 82.9% of Nigerians live within the poverty ratio. Meaning that that's, I would say they live about below the $2 mark for living. So, and this thing happened also in the metropolitan states, for example, Lagos, Abuja, Port Harcourt. We have a whole lot of people below this $2 life. And I was wondering, should this provision be prioritized? That's this 82.9%, according to the numbers. Are they, or should they be more prioritized?
Everything we do in the country is a stopgap. We are just doing a fire brigade approach to be able to address immediate solution and then do window dressing and forget about the very core of the problem. If to talk about the poverty, which has led to the issue of people being given palliative and then being given, if we have addressed the fundamentals, we don't come that way. What is the fundamentals? If we have the infrastructure working, we have our educational system working, if we have our power system working, then we would have been able to create jobs, and that would have been able to reduce the percentage in the percentage of people within the poverty bracket. But now, concerning the palliative that you are talking about, I'm trying to come to terms with the fact that we should be thinking of sharing food to able-bodied people. So that's why you see me going to the point of the very crux, the fundamentals, not looking at palliative. But if looking at palliative, yes, the issue is not the sharing of the palliative. The sincerity of those who are sharing the palliative is it's totally unacceptable to hear that while students were still at home, that they were still doing school feeding program. So how did you, if when students were in school, it was difficult to feed the students who were at school, pupils who were at school, how are you now going to go and feed those people in their parents' houses? How did you go about spending millions per day to be able to feed those people? So these are sincerity of purpose and patriotism. That would define whether the little thing Nigeria has provided, like palliative, like that food, will get to those who actually should get the benefit of it.
Wow. Thank you very much. Honorable Kabir, in recent times, we've seen visible shortages in food production, and this has enabled the increase in the prices of food. How do you think this can be fixed?
Well, Seyi, once upon a time in this country, before all of us on this panel were born, the population of this country was about 80 million, thereabout. Nigeria used to be very food sufficient and even export food. And that was when our economy was based on agriculture before we found oil. So the moment we found oil turned us into lazy men and depended on the black gold money, which is easier to get than agriculture. So until we realized the need and the fact that we have to go back to agriculture, because one day oil will fade away. It's either it finishes or it becomes useless. We're heading there already. Countries are beginning to go green with their vehicles and say, no, okay, from 2020, 2022, we will no longer have vehicles that run on fuel. So it means that we'll be left without fuel. We can't eat fuel, but we'll have to eat food. There will never be an alternative to food. Yeah. So the only way to do that is to invest in agriculture and to invest heavily in young persons, to show young persons the need for that.
Okay, so with the closure of borders and the various countries placing restrictions on trade, do you think Nigeria will be able to survive these restrictions that are being put on trade, especially, well, agriculture is one of the things that I would say should be a revenue generating aspect for us. But do you think Nigeria will be able to survive these restrictions that are put on this trade?
You know, they say when it becomes obvious that you don't have a choice, then you have to do what is right. The closure of borders to the importation of rice has bring about some level of hardship in the country. But I must tell you, it has done more good to us than the hardship that we faced. Currently, paddy rice is almost scarce. That is because our local rice mills are going out there to buy, and they are producing around the clock to sell rice. Now, what does this mean? This means that next year, hopefully, there will be more people willing to go into farm to farm rice, so that there will be enough to feed the mills. Now, this has bring about a boost in the production of rice. As it is, I cannot confirm whether we are that self-sufficient with agriculture, but if this trend continues for another year or two, we would start to export conveniently.
I would like to get your take on how we can prepare to mitigate further disruptions and problems of food shortages that have arisen from this coronavirus.
I think first off, until youth, entrepreneurs, and even government see that agriculture is actually a gold mine that we have looked away from, until we actually take agriculture seriously, we'll still be coming back to the same discourse and the same problem. And I also think problems like this are inevitable, but I think we should take seriously databases. Because now we talked about palliatives. What are the indices of measuring who gets this palliative? Is there a database? How did it reach the grassroots? So until we have all these things properly done and arranged, we will still come back to the same problem.
There is a global projection of bad food conditions due to this coronavirus. What do you think the government should do to aid food production in Nigeria, and at what are the food levels in Nigeria now telling us?
I think it still boils down to the same thing we'll be saying. We should go back to agriculture, government to invest more into agriculture, and even at individual, everybody should, even entrepreneurs should see agriculture as a gold mine, because if that is not being done, we don't have much investment, we don't have businessmen vying into the agricultural sector, because you don't just leave this alone for the government to tackle, right? So if other businessmen and entrepreneurs catch the gist that, okay, this is a viable business venture, then I think it will be a way out for every one of us.
Okay. And listening to everyone here, there's one thing that I think was said that was mutual, is the security in the land, because the clash between the farmer, herdsmen, and all that. So what measures are being put in place for these people's security, for farmers? I'll start with you, Ma'am.
For me, I really would not have anything positive, because I don't think the security level in this country has yielded, we've not done anything positive. The results are not impressive, in quote. We were tackling Boko Haram, we hadn't fully recovered from Boko Haram. Then we had people, this also, which he also raised, made people abandon their means and source of livelihood, which most of these people happen to be farmers, which also led to food shortages in the country. These people had to abandon their homes. They're homeless, and some of them are in IDP camps. We hadn't recovered from that. To the present date, we're dealing with banditry. It's so sad. Like, the insecurity level in the country is really, really going bad. And without security, people would not even, especially farmers, because if you look at the areas of targets, they are mostly in remote areas where most of these people, most of the occupation of the people targeted are farmers. So I really think a lot needs to be done with security in the country, agriculture as we speak.
Okay. Honorable Luke, could you point out 2 standing solutions that you believe would help aid Nigeria's growth as regards agriculture and the fight against this hunger virus?
They need to come together. Whatever central bank is doing, whatever the state governments are doing, whatever the federal government is doing, it has to be in sync. Let me give for instance. I came out here personally. I'm very interested in agriculture because right inside me I know that after my life in public service, apart from going to my law firm, I think I should be able to be in the farm in the evening and look at what is happening. And I wanted to even have a land here in Abuja, maybe around Abaji, going to Kogi State or Suleja. But I've been told that, any day you have to go to farm, you need to have about 4 or 5 policemen with arms so that I'll be secured. And I've been discouraged because that's what I wanted to do, my little salary, apart from giving to get people back at home. So what am I saying? Security is very key. How do we resolve, one, not only farmers' headers clash. There's another one that happens which we might not know. Communal clashes because of land. People get killed. So how do we provide security? Then the other one is storage and processing. Agricultural value chain. We just produce and then we consume. Those are the things as time permits for me to suggest.
Honorable Kabir, I would say, what do you think are like 2 solutions that can aid with food distribution across the country? Security, I know he has mentioned something about security, but as regards transporting the food across the country, can you give us solutions to that?
Well, first off, I think it's very important we have like market hubs, commodity hubs, so to say. This would give farmers an avenue, an opportunity to sell their goods easily. Sometimes the issue of transportation to markets is actually a bane that contributes a lot to wastage. I have seen a global statistics that said globally we waste more than we consume, the whole world. So that's quite alarming, that's disturbing. So what am I saying about these commodity hubs? If there are hubs would have sort of marketing units where they would be the one responsible to go and meet you from your farm and take these things and take them to the commodity hubs and do the exchange and then give you back your money.
I'm guessing we have questions from our viewers at home on Zoom, so we'll take a couple of questions now, please. The final question from Dorcas Jimmy in Port Harcourt. If any of these remedial techniques or solutions to hunger virus are actually being implemented, then what is the success rate in percentage? Right. What's the success rate in percentage having been realized?
I would continue to emphasize on this until we are patriotic about what we do. You cannot begin to measure outcome if you are not sincere. It's not for government. You see, one of the things that pains me the most is maybe probably government come to sit on television and begin to read out facts and you know that those things are not right. And then probably sometimes you want to say something against it, they begin to bring party lines. Until we are sincere, until we are patriotic about what we do, we cannot begin to measure outcomes. So what do? We should begin to think about a new Nigeria. One, where everybody, whether you're a minister of labor, you're a minister of petroleum, you're a minister, or you are a DG of NEMA or whatsoever, you must cooperate to know that whatever you are doing is affecting other lives and sectors of individuals and the nation. But we see it as, sorry to say this, we see it as our own pot. Whatsoever we are given opportunity, whether we're in the legislature, we see the National Assembly in the House of Representatives. I'm a member of the House of Representatives, so I see it as my own pot. So I should be able to concentrate on that my own part, not thinking that what I do there is going to affect the lives of others. So until we do that, we should not talk about measuring the outcome. We are not where we should be in every aspect of Nigerian life. So there is need for a new thinking. That new thinking should be based on sincerity of purpose. What legacy do I want to leave for my son who is 11 years old? I might be able to have the resources today to be able to give him a good school. What is the guarantee that my privileged position is going to continue? So the only guarantee that I'm going to have security when I am not in this privileged position again, that my children or great-grandchildren or grandchildren are going to have access to education is for me to invest, to create an enabling environment, better school, better and secure environment, so that just like ordinary Nigerians, not because only I'm a privileged Nigerian, I can enjoy as ordinary Nigerian what other privileged Nigerians have done. So we shouldn't measure outcome when we have not put in enough effort at the foundation.
Thank you very much for that. Mr. Kabir, do you have any, Honorable, do you have
I think
any?
he has said it all. There's actually no basis to start measuring the indices as it is now.
Oh, yes.
I don't think we've done enough in terms of this. So like I told you, we've rejigged the whole apparatus, and I hope that the ministry in charge of this palliatives and interventions take those things into consideration going forward, and that is when we should be able to say that this is the level of success we've achieved so far. But when I started, the first thing I said is it's a shame the way that thing was handled, and I'm not at all, I don't want to be associated with that. It's actually not what Nigerians deserve. We deserve better, so that's it.
Thank you very much, Honorables. Thank you very much, ma'am. And we'll be right back after this break for another segment. Do stay tuned. Thank you very much.
I wanna get with you. Don't just stand there teasing me. Now it's time to show and